assistance?
Yeah, it's working. Because I'm looking at my phone.
You want to go?
Yep.
All right, we're going.
It's a couple second delay, but yeah.
Yeah. Is audio on? Yeah. Okay, audio's on.
Hey, everybody.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Beer Maker Office Hours. We apologize for the technical difficulties. My name is Brett.
Matt.
Marin.
And at these office hours, this is where we're going to go in depth to a couple subjects, but then also open ourselves up to questions from anyone out there who wants to throw some stuff at us. So, today we are going to be talking a few things. One, we're going to be launching the cider kit we're going to be talking the cider kit that we just recently launched. And then we're going to go through the bottle filling kit, which is something we put on the website last week. And then we're going to talk maybe fall beer lineup, something like that. But first things first, what you guys drinking?
Well, we could probably talk about fall beer lineup now.
Go on.
Which I am sipping on an experimental holiday beer that will hopefully be coming out in the Thanksgiving time zone that will be ready for consumption over the holidays. It is a really tasty, essentially it's a brown ale with tart cherry, sweet orange peel, a little bit of cinnamon, about 7.5%, 8% alcohol. It's pretty phenomenal. We're going to tweak it a little bit and then get it out to everybody.
I am drinking a cider. I don't have a lot of explanation about it, but it has apple in it. It's pretty good. We just finished this one up like a week or two ago. This one I think is really.
This was like Tuesday.
Yeah, this is one's really recent. Did you back sweeten this one?
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, no, I did not.
This one's not back sweetened, which we will talk about a little bit when we're talking about ciders.
Yes.
But yeah, this one's pretty dry, and you can tell it's kind of milk-shaky, not super clear, but it's the apple.
Yeah. So that one, I actually went to the grocery store and bought just really opaque apple juice with all of the stuff that was in the bottle. And I put it in, and it looks the same as when I put it in, but now it's really alcoholic.
It's 6.7%, so
Cool.
it's good.
And then I'm drinking, this is a bit of a Frankenstein beer actually. So I had to throw a beer together quickly to shoot a bottle filling video. And so what this was a Belgian wit grain bill, swapped out the yeast for Quebec, and then I threw in a bunch of Mosaic, Centennial, and Citra hops during the yeast pitch. So what it's turned into is this really nice kind of light-bodied IPA, really solid hops. I just tapped it yesterday, so the carbonation isn't huge, but I'm really pumped up to see what this thing turns into in a couple days. But it also just shows how easy it is to play around with your beers and experiment, mix and match some of that stuff you may have sitting around in your fridge. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys ready to talk ciders? First things first, ciders.
Yes.
So, we are a beer maker.
Yes.
Why are we messing with ciders at all?
So I've been asking this for a long time. Ciders are delicious, and why not? Is really the answer. Beer maker is like first and foremost, it ferments things. It goes through obviously the mash, pasteurization, all of that stuff, but really where it shines, I think, is on the fermentation, because it's, it maintains temperature, and you can do anything from a fermentation perspective with it. And ciders, all they are just fermented apple juice. So we had the opportunity to make something super easy, which is cider, but there's a ton of variability to what you can put in it. The creativity is there, like cider makers all around the States, I know, I'm sure the world. I haven't been to cideries outside of the US, but like choosing different kinds of apples and making blends that are representative of what you're going for in a cider. It uses the same creativity that you find in crafting beer, but you use what's in front of you. You use apples, you use other fruits, and it's a really fun way to experiment with another beverage.
Because we can.
Because we can.
It's also apple picking season.
Yeah.
So they're falling off the trees right now. So.
Yeah, here in Boulder, we've got a lot of apples. Yeah. With the apples come the bears. And so you might as well pick those things off the floor and make some cider. So let's talk about the cider making process first and foremost. How is the brewing, fermentation, what have you, similar to beer making?
So the brewing part of it is It's pretty similar in that, we're getting it hot, and then that is pasteurizing it. But that's, when it comes to brewing, we're not converting anything. We're not, we're not transforming the fruit during that brewing process. Like, we're transforming the malts and the grains into wort. All we're really doing in the heating process is killing off any, wild bacteria that could be, or wild yeast that could be on there. And then we're also giving the machine a good opportunity to meld all these other ingredients together. So
okay, so the brewing is more of a pasteurization cleaning as opposed to that necessary sugar breakdown step.
And if you're putting cool things in there, like let's say a cinnamon stick, you're going to get those flavors out when it's warm, but not necessarily when it's cold.
All right, and then what about the fermentation? Is this shorter, longer, thin?
Quebec, it's the same as beer.
Okay, so we're
It's
going to
exact same as
use, our kit comes with a Quebec yeast, which is a particularly fast fermenter.
Yeah.
And so fermenting time is?
We're talking 1 day primary, a day rest, and then we're talking 2 days of cold conditioning. And then so it pulls all that yeast out, settles it, and then you're drinking cider on day 5.
So start to finish, we're talking maybe 5 or so
5 to
days.
6 days, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Is there any steps in the fermentation process that are substantially different to the normal beer maker brewing process?
Almost identical.
All right. Well, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the kind of the step-by-step process of how we're going to make cider on a beer maker.
Yeah.
If you guys have noticed, the kit actually doesn't come with apples. So this is a bit of a BYO apple situation.
Yes.
What do we need to start with?
So you need apple juice. Ideally, it would be juice in a natural form, and it's just without preservatives. So if you use preservatives, you're going to prohibit yeast from growing and fermenting out properly. So you always want to use natural apple juice. Really, if you're buying it in the store, look on the back label. It should just say ingredients, apple juice. If there's anything else, don't buy it.
So not from concentrate, no preservatives.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And so if you look for ones that say organic, that's going to be apple juice. Like, there really aren't organic preservatives; they're all pasteurized. So if you just say organic or natural, that's great. Or you can squash your own apples.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It takes a long time.
Yeah, if you do it without an apple press.
Yes. If you get an apple
Matt
press.
has done.
You do it without an apple press, it takes a long time, and you need a lot of apples.
So I don't own an apple press.
I would suggest getting apple juice.
Yeah. So if you don't have an apple press, really the only.
But you have what? All right. So if you don't have an apple press,
If
but
you
you have a lot of, you're rich in apples.
If you're rich in
pour
apples
an apple press.
and you have time, you're gonna want to peel the apples.
Sure.
You want to cut them up, core them, take the cores out. What I did was blended them up, and then you take the pulpy stuff and you put it through a mesh type thing to filter out all the big chunks, and then you end up with juice. Okay.
You ran a corner right here. Doing a bit of a mic check here.
Okay.
Justin.
But you basically just get all the juice out of it. You make sure you get rid of all the pulp.
Yeah. Yeah, so the other way to do it, let's say you have an apple tree in your yard like I do, that is just, we've got like hundreds of pounds of apples just scattered across the yard. You can throw all of those in the back of your car and drive to your local homebrew shop. Usually during, fruit harvest season, they'll have presses that are available to people who want to use them. So just call around, make friends at your homebrew shop and use the press, and then collect all your juice, and then take it home, throw it in your beer maker. So you need almost 20 pounds of apples to make a beer. Or sorry,
one
cider.
batch.
One batch. Thereabouts. Which, this is kind of heavy. So it's surprising, right? A couple bags of these.
At least 20 apples.
20. At least, maybe 40. Yeah.
All right, so hard cider is one of those things that has a lot of flavor additions.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff can I put in my cider?
What do you have on hand?
I have some
Sure.
cinnamon. Funny you should ask.
Yeah. So cinnamon works. You can use any kinds of spices, anything you're interested in. You can use other fruits. If you have pears, you can use pears, pear juice. If you are using actual fruit itself, prefer to freeze it first. If you just quarter it up, throw it in your freezer for a night, and use it the next morning. You can also get frozen bagged fruit that works, like smoothie mixes. You can do that. Prickly pears.
When do you put that in?
So pretty much everything goes in at the brewing step. You put it into your grain basket because you're not using grains. So
yeah, this one's a little weird. You put your grain basket in and you fill it up with liquid, but there's nothing in it. So if you were to make some additions, you just toss them right in the brew tub.
Exactly. Like whatever you want, just put them in there. You can use hops as well.
Okay.
Prefer to put hops in on the yeast pitch step or on the dry hop step, because that will prevent them from becoming overly bitter. If you put raw hops in during the brew step, you're going to isomerize those hops a little bit. So you're going to make a slightly more bitter cider, and that could be something you're going for if you want to. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about ABV.
Yes.
Do different juices have different sugar contents? Can I increase my ABV? How do I do that?
Yeah, so apples in general have a pretty tight range of sugar content that will ultimately get turned into alcohol. Ideally, you can just brew one and then see how it turns out, and then do it again and make some changes to it.
If I went straight store-bought juice,
yes,
around where do you think we're gonna land?
About,
how much liquid is it?
Yes.
And where do you think we'll land?
So you're gonna put in about 5,200 milliliters of juice.
Okay.
And then that juice, if you take a gravity measurement, will be about 12.5 degrees Plato, or percentage sugar.
Translate that.
Which will then ferment out entirely and turn into a, let's call it a 6 to 6.5%.
All right, so
beverage.
we're starting off with 52 milliliters of apple juice. It's already a pretty...
It's pretty hefty.
5,200 is already a pretty heavy start.
Yes.
If I were to crank that up, because this is pretty flavorful.
Yes.
If I add some cinnamon, it could be pretty flavorful. Or maybe hide a little more booze.
Oh yeah.
How does that process work? How much is there a kind of a standard ratio of added sugar to ABV?
About 1 ounce of raw sugar will give you 0.2% ABV.
Okay.
So we have this on our blog post that we put up today too. It gives you general guidelines of it. So if you look at the sugars, you'll be able to see how much alcohol each one of those additions will get you.
Cool. Chupacabra. Good question. He asked if you're adding spices or anything like that, where do you put it?
So ideally you would put that into the brew tub. You can put it in your waste bag if you want to keep it in for the whole fermentation, which you may want to do if you're using some spices that are going to take a long time to come out. I don't know if any off the top of my head that would, but you could put it down there. But yeah, generally you're going to want to put them up in the top grain basket of your brew tub. And
this is honestly, if you've got something in the works, we have only done so much testing, so we haven't, a cinnamon stick in the waste bag versus a cinnamon stick in the grain basket.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have a ton of statistical support.
I would say that I have preferred the cinnamon stick versus the cinnamon powder. The cinnamon powder didn't really do much. That's what I used in the one I made.
Okay.
It didn't really do a lot to the flavor.
And you can get dangerous with that stuff too if you put too much in, and let's say it's like really potent. Like for those of you who are watching who have a pumpkin beer, the pumpkin spice that we used for the first couple hundred that went out within, let's call it anything that went out over September, first half of October, that had one set of pumpkin spice, and then we had to get more because apparently everybody really likes pumpkin beer, so we had to re-up on all of our supplies, and we got a slightly different spice blend, and it's a lot more potent this time. So back if you smell it, back it down. I just start with half a pack, half of the spice pack, and see how it goes, but it can be pretty potent.
Yeah, but since there's no grains up in the top that have a tendency to absorb some of those other flavors, in this particular case you can throw it in the top and you'll kind of get the same amount of flavor.
Yep.
All right, so cranked up ABV.
Yes.
So at this point, at least, does this process make a dry or a sweet cider?
Well,
Matt.
What do you think, Matt?
It makes a very dry cider.
Yes.
Very dry.
And why is that?
Fructose and glucose, like essentially the sugars that come out of the fruits are entirely fermentable. So there is in this. Sorry, this is Matt's cider. So not mine. I won't touch it. In this cider, there is no residual sugar because the yeast have eaten all of it. So when you take a gravity measurement of this, it's reading like 0.99, which is very low. There's nothing left in there. So it's going to be very tart. You're left with those acids from the fruit, and you're going to have a lot of alcohol. So to make it sweet, you have a couple options.
Okay.
First option is keto sweeteners, essentially non-fermentable sugar alcohols.
Okay. Can you give me some examples of keto sweeteners? Is this like keto
Xylitol,
diet or just
like xylitol, like the
Alright.
stuff that sweetens kids' toothpaste?
And if you were to add xylitol,
Yes.
what step of the process would you be
So
adding?
you
Because this is not fermentable, so
Exactly.
could you put it in early?
Yes.
Okay.
You could and should. So that's one of the options. There are a lot of alternate sweeteners in the baking aisle at the grocery store.
Sure.
So like xylitol, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't really use alternate. I really like sugar myself, so I haven't really ventured into the world of sugar-free sweeteners.
Okay.
That said,
But things that maybe my grandma calls sweeter.
yes.
You just put right in your
Exactly.
in your
Yeah.
tea.
Splenda, stevia,
Yeah.
things like that. So you can
So
put
those
in.
are sweeteners that aren't fermentable.
Right.
So you can put those in early.
Yep.
If you were to add more sugar up at the upfront, it's just going to get fermented
Exactly.
and make it boozier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So the other option,
Yep.
you can add sugar at the end of the process. So you allow the cider to get really cold. So right before you transfer it, it's going to be as cold as the beer maker can
So
get it.
fermentation is complete.
Yep.
Basically, you get the notification your beer's done.
You're done.
Okay.
Right. So then what you do, you can take some apple juice,
Mm-hmm.
put it in the microwave, like take a cup, like 12 ounces of it, put it in the microwave it for a couple minutes until it starts boiling a little bit and killing off anything.
So you're just
in there.
pasteurizing it.
Pasteurizing the apple juice, exactly. And then take it out of the microwave, open the brew tub, pour it in, give your bag a couple of pushes, and then you get that apple juice mixed in, the warmer stuff that's just, it's sweet now. Now you pull that bag out, put it in your beer tap, throw it in your fridge, and now you've got slightly sweeter
Okay.
cider.
You could also fill up a glass 3/4,
Yes.
hit it with a bit. So all you're really
Yeah.
doing is just mixing in a little bit more sugar.
Exactly.
with your drink. All right.
You could also, you can do a little bit of water and put table sugar in there, brown sugar, honey, whatever it is. But the cadence would be you get it hot, get it liquidy, pour it into your brew tub, pump the bag, and now you've got some sweet. Now, really important, it's got to stay cold.
Go on.
Because it'll ferment. It'll keep fermenting, right?
Okay.
If you let the yeast wake back up, they're going to keep fermenting it. And chances are there will be enough slow activity of the yeast that there will slowly start fermenting that.
Okay. So either you want to leave it in your beer maker,
Right.
where it's still holding that cold temp,
Ideally not,
or
honestly.
move
In
it.
your beer tap in your fridge.
Okay. So move it to the fridge.
Yeah.
All right.
And only do it in beer tap or keg form where there is a pressure relief valve in case it happens to get warm and continue fermenting. If you
Okay.
put it in bottles where it's perfectly sealed, it could blow up.
Okay. Last cider question. If anyone has cider questions, throw them in the chat right now. I have a specific question. Are they all going to look like this? That's some pretty cloudy stuff.
That's really cloudy. No, they will look like whatever you get at the store. Like I bought some super cloudy cider because it had all of like those apple goo in the bottom of
Yeah.
the jug, and I really wanted to
It's
get all that
extra
in there.
natural.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can go for the stuff that's been like heavily filtered and looks like perfectly polished, and it'll look just like that.
So
after about a week.
all we're avoiding are the preservatives
Mhm.
and
That's it.
okay, concentrate.
Yeah, concentrate. I mean, you could use concentrate. Just won't taste as good.
Okay, cool. So that's about it for cider. If anyone has cider questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll come back to them. But I already see a question, so we're gonna switch up and go to holiday lineup because Mr. Chupacabra, he says, "What are we looking at getting that Dunkel? Dunkel and the spice beer."
What do you think?
Holiday beer.
What do you think? Tuesday?
Tuesday next
Tuesday?
week.
Tuesday.
So
I
we'll
think.
probably launch. Getting closer. No, so we're gonna launch the Dunkel probably next week.
Yeah.
That beer's been pretty much locked for a while now. We've just been kind of waiting for the right time to launch it.
Yeah.
Spice beer is gonna be around that week of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
About right?
That's about right. Yeah.
What else do we have on the docket for the year? The tentative
Tentative docket.
No promises.
Is a wee heavy. Holy moly.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
What's a wee
a
heavy?
wee heavy is a yeah, it's a Scottish beer. And it's very malty. It's incredibly high in alcohol percentage. It's essentially a Scottish barley wine style of beer, but not quite at that barley wine. It's usually in like 7 to 8%, maybe 8.5%. It's a lot of them. Like probably the most famous is the Traquair House. That one is aged on oak for a while, so this is a really great beer to put oak into if you wanted to do that and go for the long age. It's got this like syrupy sweetness to it, but it's balanced incredibly well by dark malts and high alcohol, so you get that burn, you get the kind of little bit of a scraping of the darker tannin in there. It's a phenomenally fun beer to.
A lot of passion for the wee heavy
yes.
from our ginger Scotsman.
Yeah.
I like it.
And actually,
half my family's from Scotland.
well, and actually, since you're mentioning like the mulled wine, though, like that is actually another thing to talk about. The cider is that if you don't carbonate it, you can heat it up, and you can have hot cider, and you can add other stuff to it. You can make it more of like a mixed drink.
Excellent point. Yeah, this could be the base of a lot of those hot toddy-esque
What was
type.
it? We figured a hot toddy wasn't the right one.
We
I
don't
think,
really know
Hot
what hot
toddies.
toddy
but
is.
we weren't even sure what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely use this as a base for some mixed drinks as well, because it is just so alcoholic with just so like extra, not as much sweetness. You
Right.
put some mixers in there and other
exactly.
stuff.
So you can do it without like Captain Morgan's, and it's like
Exactly.
it's still really good.
Cool. So, month of November we got Dunkel.
Yes.
We got Holiday, and then we've got some wee heavy probables, and then we've got some other fun stuff that we're working on, but we're not
Yeah.
gonna give too much away just yet.
Yeah, one of them's a surprise that I don't know if everybody's gonna like, but that's,
I mean,
But everyone's gonna buy it like the pumpkin. So I mean,
you guys were hating on pumpkin, but a bunch of pumpkin eaters. I'll say that again. All right, so let's talk about. We got one question in here about the bottle filler. But
Let's do
so we launched maybe last week is a bottle filler, and the intention of this contraption is to transfer your beer from your unfermented or uncarbonated beer, to some sort of vessel. So maybe you want to bottle this stuff or put it in a growler. So what, talk to me like, what are some of the use cases? Bottle filling, kegs, what else, like that kind of stuff.
well, you got them.
Okay,
Growler.
so do all of them need to be carbonated? Like, what are the carbonation process after you transfer your beer?
All right, sure. So the cadence for this guy would be: you're done with your beer, done fermenting. You get the app notification, hey, your beer is done, transfer it. So you take a gray valve. You can pull one off of the beer tap. If you have any spare ones hanging around, you screw a gray valve onto this cap.
Doesn't matter which gray valve, red gasket, black gasket. No problem.
Beer, because this is a low pressure event, it's not gonna require any of the fancy messing arounds we had to do with the gray valves and the beer tap. So you screw your gray valve on here, and then you plug it into your top valve on your beer maker.
So
I'm not disconnecting anything.
So this is a cider.
we got a cider fermenting right now, but
So you press this.
how in the hell
Yes.
is that going to work? If you plug that into the top valve,
Mm-hmm.
how's that beer getting down to your bottles?
So you will be siphoning essentially. Your gravity
Okay.
feeding. So you push the bag a little bit, you fill the line up, and then it just flows.
So you just need to make sure that your vessel, your bottle, your mini keg, whatever you're filling up is below the beer maker.
Yep.
And then once you get that beer up and over the hump,
It's all good.
anyone who's ever siphoned gas will understand this one. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
science right there, right?
Yeah, physics at work.
How is this thing? Well, actually, before we go to that, talk to me about this wand. What's the deal? How's this thing work?
So this is a bottle filler wand. This is it's a plunger that when this is full of liquid, it pushes this down and prevents liquid from flowing. When you have a bottom of your bottle, you press this down, and then the plunger goes up into the tube and allows liquid to flow.
So stick it in your bottle, fill it up. Second you pull it out, it's gonna stop the flow.
Exactly.
Easy enough.
Yep. Anybody who's had an intro beer brewing kit is quite familiar with these wands.
So we've got a bottle filler.
Yep.
And we also have a growler filler.
Yes.
Talk to me about the difference.
So
I gotcha.
the growler.
What was I doing?
Alright. Yeah. You don't want to connect it to the brew tub.
You don't.
wanna
I just
connect
wasn't
it-
disconnecting anything.
Yeah.
So what you do is you first disconnect that gray valve, then you take the gray valve off, and then you take a new gray
Got a whole
valve.
bucket of them down there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
to answer the other question is basically you're gonna attach a gray valve to this little guy.
Yeah.
Like so. You're gonna remove your brew tub completely and expose that top white valve, and then just like you would connect them in the first place, just connect this to that top white valve. And yes, we've got a video, shot it yesterday, hence the uncarbonated beer I was drinking earlier. And we're gonna put that out probably tonight, tomorrow. Jake goes sleep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so the difference between a growler
Oh, yes.
filler and the transfer kit is this transfer kit is designed to be plugged directly into a freestanding bag, and importantly while it's not carbonated. The growler filler is designed for fully carbonated, fully pressurized beers.
so you're taking beer from your tap, hitting the gloves.
Yep. You
Got
got
it. Yes. All right. Let's see. All right. So basically, you guys feel free to flood us with completely unrelated questions. There's a couple in here I'm gonna jump into right now. Yeah, we're done with our scheduled content for the evening. So let us know what you need. So we have a question. Hop filter development for our man Jonathan Hill. Where are we at?
I just need to get them made. They are done.
Hates that question.
No, they're done. We have a batch of samples here that all seem to work. The biggest problem that we were running into was they were having trouble finding the right wire gauge for the mesh in China. And they finally found it. I don't know why they couldn't find it before. The gauge I found says it's actually manufactured in China, but for whatever reason, this one's slightly different than what originally prototyped with, but it works.
China's a big place.
It's a big place, although it does say that it's from Guangzhou. So it's from the same city where it manufacturers. But it's fine. They seem good. We just need to get some of them made. I forgot to get the quote finished yet, but shouldn't be too long. Probably like a week or two before we get several hundred of them in here.
So we've got samples of what are producible units, and we'll very likely launch a kit that absolutely requires it.
Do you want to talk about that kit, or?
I mean, I think we
part of
mentioned it last time,
full
so
lineup?
go for it.
Yeah.
Fall lineup. This is again
So-
debatable, so it all depends on logistics in China and China logistics, all of which are a total crapshoot right now. So
Yeah, that's being
we'll
very
say
kind.
what it is,
Yes.
but we
Yes.
promise no dates.
Right. So the kit is an Imperial IPA.
Cool.
It has way too many hops in it
Nice.
to be even close to functional without a hop filter.
What makes an IPA imperial?
Very high original gravity
How do we get that?
by mashing a lot of grain. A lot of grain.
So when I make a redwood, I feel like I pretty much pack that thing out.
Mhm.
So how the heck am I supposed to fit more grain?
You do it twice. So you pack
Care
it
to-
out.
Care to elaborate?
So you pack it out entirely the first time, and then you go through the entire brewing process.
Okay.
It's hot. You're gonna get a notification, maybe while you're asleep, we don't really know that
Plan accordingly.
part, right? So
Just don't
there's
sleep
going to
during
have to
this
be some planning around it. So you're going to get a notification, come back to your beer maker, pull that first malt mash out, dump it, rinse out your grain basket, put the second set of malt in. So we're talking
And
like,
probably some more water.
oh yeah, a lot more. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. And then
So this is with this Imperial IPA, we're not only launching our hop filter because there's an excessive amount of hops, but we're also going to be launching the double mash step.
exactly,
Ooh.
it's very exciting.
What does that ABV come out to?
The
Excited.
the one I'm doing right now, I didn't even max out the machine, and it's 11%.
Nice.
I'll be doing it.
It's pretty sweet,
Cool.
literally really sweet.
Sweet and boozy. All right, so keep an eye out. Coming, pipeline. Deb, you asked a question. This one's
Oof.
This is like nerd warning here. So we're gonna start talking about ions.
Ooh.
So, how can I convert a city water report to a profile for our beer maker water chemistry kit?
Yes. So the best way to do this is to, frankly, at this point, not use our website. We have on our website we have an exact amount.
Yet.
Yeah. Right. No. And this is we're still. I mean, we only
You
launched
keep
this like
asking
2 weeks
questions
ago.
about like homework that Matt and Aaron have.
And this is the big one, right? So what you can, there are water chemistry calculators that you can find. I personally really like Brewer's Friend. They have a great advanced water chemistry calculation program where you can add in your city water profile and have that be your starting ion count.
Okay.
And then you can say, I want to do this profile, and then it will show you what you need to add or subtract from your city water to match that profile.
I'm utterly lost.
Right. So this.
Wait.
Okay.
Step one.
Yes.
How do I find out my city water profile?
So for us, we would go to bouldercounty.gov,
Okay.
click on the municipal water supply
Okay. So this is
area.
potentially publicly available information.
Yeah, most
Unless you're in the
municipal.
sticks.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, even in the sticks, like most municipal water supplies have this readily available.
All right, and that information will quantify your water in what?
Generally in the ion contents, like
So-
how many like calcium ions.
Ions.
Yeah.
And so what
Yeah.
what we are currently missing is the calculator of ion to
Those things.
element additions.
Yeah, let's call them minerals.
Mineral additions.
Yes.
I ask the questions. I don't give the answers. Okay. So,
Right.
step one, find out what your water looks like.
Yes.
Get the ion report. Step 2.5 is figure out how to convert those to our kit.
Right. So, and
So now
that's
you're basically just putting pressure on yourself to create that calculator, or find someone else.
well, I met a guy at the
This is a good start.
There's a truck stop.
Yeah.
where were we? We were at the Lafayette Brewfest, and he was the guy who actually coded up the Brewer's Friend water chemistry calculator.
Okay.
Andrew, if you're watching, hey Andrew.
He's not.
All right. So
Yet.
Yeah,
We'll get viewers
so-
later.
exactly right. So yeah. So we've been chatting with Andrew. He's offered his assistance to us, which would be great because that would be a lot of fun to incorporate a lot of the awesome stuff that they've done into our water calculation.
Okay, so someone can easily find it.
Yep.
The difference between, or the obstacle between the water report from their municipal government
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out what to put in is some math that they may or may not be able to do themselves.
Right.
We also may just be able to do if they're very interested.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. No, if they're super interested, just like send an email, support at Beer Maker. I'll respond and I'll give you. I will
Yeah,
give you the
we'll
things.
figure it out. But that water page, the one that the QR code scans in the water kit, is something that we're going to continue to build on. If we launch new beers that have unique water recipes, we'll put those in there.
Yep.
We will give recommended water profiles for every single one of our new kits going forward, starting... Yeah, Dunkel will have one.
Yeah.
Um,
We didn't have to say it. I mean,
Yeah,
We had
well, Christian had his own profile for
Right.
it. Like this is just Christian's water profile
Right.
for the Sable.
From his house.
Well, no, actually,
No,
he built it.
Okay.
He built it.
Right.
Yeah, because he lives in Arizona and they have terrible water down there. He builds all of his profiles from scratch.
Cool.
He's just he is an artist.
Can we last call for questions here?
Artiste.
An artiste.
Jake, do you want to type something in there? Last call for questions.
Yeah.
Can?
Well, they will. It's just on a delay.
Oh yeah.
What else we got? I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff. There's really
We've been brewing a lot.
yes.
We've been brewing a ton. I think actually, if anything, the guardrails have kind of broken down and we're getting a little weird with it, which I think you guys will enjoy and it'll be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Someone said that brewer's friend's calculator is pretty complicated.
It is.
I agree.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That's why. I mean. Right, and that's why I'm glad I know Andrew who built the thing. So I'm gonna talk with him.
This is an interesting
about some
question. With hop water and hop tea becoming a popular thing,
stuff.
any thoughts on doing that for beer maker? Like how does that? And I guess he's probably referring to kind of some of those commercial examples, like what's it, hop tea?
I think
Is
it's
that the one that's
called
canned?
hop tea.
I mean, they're like
Yeah.
here in Boulder, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out hop
Yeah.
tea.
Hey guys.
I'm sure they're watching.
Yeah.
They definitely.
Yeah. So what is hop tea?
Mm-hmm.
How can it work with beer maker?
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Yeah. So if you want to make tea and put hops in it, you can absolutely do that in a beer maker.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah. Right.
Next question.
So it depends on what you're going for, right? So if you're making black tea, I mean, honestly, there are easier ways to do it than with a beer maker. You know, beer maker is made for fermentation,
Sure.
for mashing, and for combining a lot of disparate flavors together into a beverage. So hot teas, you know, you can generally brew a tea in a tea kettle on your stove or big pot and put it in the fridge. Like if you're doing an iced tea, that's totally part of it. You could brew a tea and just pour it directly into your beer tap and carbonate it. And you can skip the beer maker altogether.
So then okay. So then let's nerd out for a second on hop tea versus steam hops.
Yes.
And how those two are related.
So hop tea is, generally speaking, when you do a separate boil of wort
Mm-hmm.
and you add raw hops to it to then create a bittered hop tea that
Okay.
you then, and it's a concentrate, and then you add that back into your bigger batch. Commercial breweries do this all the time. A lot of home brewers do this. They want to save on time or space or whatnot. Just doing a small boil is a lot easier than doing a gigantic boil. So that is generally hop tea. You want to do that with wort because the pH is lower in wort. You're getting those beer flavors out of it. If you do it in water, you get this overly vegetal, incredibly bitter taste that can be off-putting if you're doing a lot of hops. If you're doing it just a little bit to get a little bit of bitter, you'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
But that's really it when it comes to hop tea in particular for beer. Now, if you're doing, let's call it hop tea
By itself.
by itself,
It's a very different.
right? We're talking
Tea.
We're talking Earl Grey with Citra hops in it,
Right.
So that's totally different.
So you very likely have a nice base of more traditional teas
Right.
with the bittering flavor component of some of these kind of exciting hops.
Could you pour hop tea into your cider as sort of a mix?
Absolutely.
You can pour hop tea into anything.
That's cool.
Hey Matt, what is the most updated version of our app? Android
is
and iOS.
1.3.18. However, there was a mistake on the writing on it, so I think it says 1.3.16 on the app itself. But if you go to the App Store or the Google Play Store, just make sure it doesn't say you need to update it. The latest ones are there. So 1.3.16 is what it will list as right now. 1.3.16, but it is technically actually 1.3.18.
Right. So what Matt's talking about is when you open your beer maker app, you hit this side button, it's this down here. This says 1.3.16. That's not right.
All right.
Yes.
Anyway,
It's slightly wrong, but if you go to the
anyone who asks for the most updated version can give.
yeah, if you want the most updated version, if you want to know you have the most updated version, go into your store, go into the DIY section, and see if it has the word adjuncts as one of the choices. If you can see adjuncts in your store, you have the latest version of the app.
Right. So now I just opened the Apple App Store for Beer Maker, and this says 1.3.18 right here.
Cool.
That's
All
the
right.
latest version.
So if you look in the stores, that's where it says it.
Deb asked an awesome question. Yeah, that was great content, huh, Jacob? Let's go. Let's go more.
I can say
Let's go
more
deeper.
numbers, but that's
Repeat pie, please.
Deb asked a good question, or an interesting question that I have not tried. I don't think anyone here has, Deb, so I'm going to make this answer up. Along with the tea question. Have you ever tried ginseng?
Just like as a supplement.
That's
like,
the question.
for
health? Wow.
Answer the question.
Well, so
Stop.
no.
What is ginseng for again?
So ginseng is like it
I don't
gives you a little energy pop. You know, it's found in teas and soft drinks and I remember being in high school and getting burritos and getting like a sobe tea with ginseng in it, and it was like, you know, it was always a fun.
Short answer, Deb. You tell us.
Yeah, you should make some.
We have no idea. If we believe that ginseng requires boiling, not boiling, but at least higher temps to activate, do something, put it in during the brew step. If not, throw it in during a dry hop step, and we're all gonna see what happens.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
seriously,
made,
let us know.
I did some ginger. It's a thing also. Unrelated, starts with a G.
It's very spicy.
Yeah, it's spicy as all hell.
It's good.
So I brewed with ginger. We made like a seltzer, just messing around. Jake's hitting it right now. But it adds a lot. That's for damn sure. What else we got?
If anybody out there can come up with a Four Loco recipe,
Oh,
Just-
The
the original Four Loco, it can't be one of the later ones. You have to make the original Four Loco. You gotta send it in to us
Yeah, yeah.
so we can make it. We can put that in the store.
Oh,
We'll make
wow.
it.
8 loco maker.
Yeah.
We'll double it.
All right,
Yeah,
Randy
yeah.
H. When will the preheat, grain removal, and double mash options be available on the DIY?
Great question.
It's stuff I have to do. It's what I'm currently working on is updates to the DIY section.
And I mean, as a non full-blown DIYer, what I tend to use is any sort of recipe that has those steps as a backbone. So if I know if I'm making a Quebec IPA that requires a dry hop, I'll start with the backyard and has those steps in place.
That said,
Yeah.
there are no strike temp or double.
Well, that's because we
mash.
haven't even
Right,
gotten there yet.
exactly,
But like,
yeah.
if you wanted to double mash something else after post Imperial IPA launch, you can use that as a backbone for your recipe. As far as DIY recipe, again, you're just making Matt uncomfortable.
I'm working on it.
It's all right.
It's written on the back end. I need to get the front end up to date and stuff. So there's still some work to be done.
Soon, really soon. Because usually I get past those questions. I'm like, all right, well, let's do some beers.
Yeah. All right, well, folks, we're out of questions. Anyone else? Anything?
We should probably send our announcements out earlier so more people can join the live stream.
It's okay.
How many people do we get this time?
There's 16 people.
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
It's like
That's all right. This isn't.
a small classroom.
18
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, this is office hours.
That's how many likes I got on
Only
the ball
the
on the
dorks
post.
show
So.
up to office hours. All right, thanks everybody. We'll do this again in a month or so. Like always, either shoot us an email at support@beermaker.com if you have any questions about your own brewing or you have any suggestions for future topics. Like I said, we also tend to stock the BOG, the Beer Makers Owners Group, on Facebook to look for
Join
potential
our
content.
Discord.
Come on.
Join our Discord.
Oh yeah, we have a Discord
We have
channel.
a Discord.
It's growing.
I'm 35, so I don't know what that means. But if you're cooler than me, join our Discord.
It's growing. It's been pretty lively lately. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so we seem to have active groups on Facebook. There's a Reddit r/beermaker, and then also a Discord channel. None of those are moderated or controlled by us.
Well,
They're all, well, I don't know.
the Discord is kind of.
It is, or technically we
I
opened
did
it. We
Yes.
created it.
Jake
But
did it. Okay.
we want to let those go free. Like, we really want to hear your honest opinions here. So jump in, chime in, and we are listening.
Yep.
That's why we open up these things so you guys can ask us questions.
And follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
We have 100 followers on Twitter right now. I was a little disappointed. So
I think we've had one post on Twitter.
Yeah, we
though.
don't
We've only
tweet.
No, I post. I do
Oh, you
tweets.
tweet?
We
You
do
tweet.
all day.
So we need more followers on Twitter. Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah, follow us on all
Facebook.
the things. Like, subscribe, ding, ding, ding. I don't know. Night, guys.
We don't have
Good
any.
day, everybody.
We don't have any like advertisers or anything, so we don't have anything to plug. So
Yeah.
I think we're done.
Support. Yeah.
Just buy stuff at
Thanks
Beer
to our
Maker.
sponsors. Beer Maker. Check them out at beermaker.com.
Yeah, beermaker.com.